Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us today for our specialized skill sets in the skill trades webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are situated on traditional territories and treaty lands, in particular those of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nations, as well as the Anishinaabe of the Williams Treaty First Nations, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis Nations. As the RESCON office is located in Vaughan, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. Just a few housekeeping items before I begin. This webinar will be recorded and emailed to all those who RSVP'd and will also be posted on our website. We'll also be linking any resources shared today in the summary email, so keep an eye out for it in your email. So we encourage you to use the Q&A function if you have any questions and to interact with us and with other audience. Just, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Just to begin, so it's no secret that there's a huge labor shortage in the construction industry. We've all seen the data projecting the need for 100,000 construction workers over the next decade to keep up with demand. Achieving the goal of building 1.5 million homes is only possible if we have a sustainable skilled workforce. Well, the good news is we know the answer to our labor shortage in our sector, and that's training for specialized skill sets and improved recruitment and retention efforts. Training for these needed skill sets is crucial as they're the real careers that make up 90% of the jobs that exist in residential infrastructure related sectors. The labor shortage won't be solved without supporting specialized skill set employers in their efforts to train, recruit, and retain. There's a lot of work that's going into attracting people to the skilled trades. However, to maximize government efforts and investments and to streamline the path for those interested in a career in construction, we must first raise awareness of what specialized skill sets are. I won't get too much into it as we'll be hearing a lot more about it in our upcoming presentation and our panel discussion. I'll now turn it over to Andrew Perser, who will present more on what specialized skill sets are and the structure of residential construction. Andrew is the Vice President of RESCON. He doesn't need too much of an introduction. If you've worked with RESCON, you know who Andrew is. So now without further ado, I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. Let me share my screen. Okay, so thank you, Head, for the introduction. As you know, specialized skill sets is something that we've been talking about for a number of years, and so we just kind of wanted to level the playing field and get into what we mean. When we mean specialized skill sets, what we mean, and I'll say it as a collective or a royal we, so I'm talking mainly about the residential construction sectors, and then what I would call the heavy civil sector, which is really three sectors. And so that would be roads, sewer and water main, and heavy. And so as everybody knows, there's 7 sectors of construction in Ontario. Residential is the biggest, but when you combine roads, sewer and water, and heavy, I mean, those are some pretty large sectors. And so the focus of this discussion is really on those. Some will recognize that that is mainly the voluntary trades, but this isn't about voluntary or compulsory. It's about what are the specialized skill sets that are out there. And I guess how we define it is these are the skill sets that reflect the real careers and jobs that exist in the residential and infrastructure related sectors. People ask, is this new? No, this is how we've always built from day one. So we'll say over 100 years, but I'm sure we could go back a bit further. That's where our history picks up. So when we're talking about specialized skill sets, we're talking about the people who form basements. We're talking about the people who pour high-rise, who do high-rise forming for condos. I think about some of the people that we work closely with through Orca. So we're talking about concrete and drain. We're talking about bricklaying. We're talking about the installation of trim. We're talking about pipe layers in sewer and water main. We're talking about asphalt rakers. And so essentially, this is how we build, and this is how our members' businesses are organized. And this is how they've always been organized. So this is residential construction, and this is infrastructure construction. So how does it work? So I'll use a residential example. So if you have 100 employees in either a subdivision or 100 employees on a high-rise residential condo or apartment building project, about 5 to 10 and probably closer to 5 are directly employed by the builder. The other 90 to 95 are employed by what we would call, well, they're sub-trades, because we sub out the work to them, but we would call them sub-trades in the specialized skill sets. And so again, these are people that build the basements, that do the high-rise forming, do concrete and drain work, install trim, hardwood, tile. One of my favorites was always railing. We have literal companies and workers that just install railings. And so to build a house or a condo, we rely on these 20 to 25 sub-trades that specialize in these specialized skill sets. And this is how we've always built residential, and this is how it's always been done on the infrastructure side. Sub-trades. So if you're new to construction, a sub-trade, and the ones that we use, are businesses that specialize in the skill set. And so again, the example would be railing. So there are companies, in our case, we're unionized builders and we use unionized sub-trades. So there are railing companies that are bound to a railing collective agreement that use railing installers who are bound to, or who are members of Local 183. And so you're starting to see that specialization. So a builder will build a subdivision or a condo. Within that is obviously all of the residential units. Those units depend on all of these specialized sub-trade companies and these subcontractors, who then often will hire unionized workers, depending on what collective agreement applies. And if they're unionized, most are. And then now you have these specialized skill sets and these very specialized workers. In construction, most businesses are small or smaller sized. In the infrastructure sector, I think we all know of some of the larger ones. And so you've got a couple, I'd say very dominant members, especially on the infrastructure side, but construction is all about small businesses. And generally, a lot of those businesses are family businesses. And so construction is also about family. Why does this matter? We'll get into this. John's going to talk a little bit about it. We've got a great panel lined up. It matters because when you look at the Build Force report, and I think a new Build Force report is going to come out this week or next week, there are there are labor needs, and we are short people in construction. Right now, I would say we don't have enough detail when it comes to LMI. And so what we want to know from an LMI point of view, and no disrespect to Build Force because they do great work, this issue goes back to Stats Canada, who has to collect better raw data for us. But what we want to know is we want to know the specialized skill sets. I got kicked out somehow. It doesn't matter. We want to know the specialized skill sets that we're short workers in. And so, for instance, instead of telling us that we're missing 10 or 20,000 carpenters or CCW tradespeople, what we want to know is how many people do we need in basement forming? How many people do we need in high-rise forming? Because with that information, in a geographically represented way, we can start to find and target the jobs that exist and fill the specific needs that exist. And so that's why it matters, and that's why we're here today. And so with that, I think I'm going to introduce a colleague of mine. So we can stop sharing the screen here. We can bring John onto the screen. So Dr. John Gallagher, I think he's no stranger to our group. He is on, I think it's the board of directors of George Brown College, but more importantly is the executive director of Job Talks. He's done many reviews and reports and studies looking at why people get into work, looking at are they happy with their job. He has become an expert in construction. And without further ado, I'm just gonna turn it over to John.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Very generous introduction. I'm really delighted to be here, especially, I think, just to tee up an excellent panel with Steve, and Nicole, and Amina. So ahead of that, I'm honored to be able to share with you some advice that I'd like to offer all of you as someone who has studied all kinds of workers in Canada, and in particular, had the honor of spending a lot of time within the construction sector, interviewing people one-on-one, and also surveys too. I'm going to have some help from some slides. I'll bring them up on the screen in a moment. Should be able, let's see here, should be able to see that soon. And let's see. Okay. I do have some sound that I'd like to include. Let's see if I'm able to include that. It doesn't look like I'm able to click on that sound, but let's see here. So I'm going to hope that you're seeing what I see, which is a full screen version of how to attract terrific and retain youth to the sub trades. And, you know, we're talking about young people. That's going to be my focus. But certainly, if you want to think beyond that to, you know, those who are in their, late 20s, 30s, second career seekers, by all means, there's a pattern here on reaching people in the right way, in a more strategic way. So I've talked to parents in the last 6 months through survey research. I've asked them what for them are the qualities of a good job. What do we mean by that? A good job. And well, I can tell you, everyone, it's really interesting when you look at, in this case, a word cloud, a visual representation of how people answer an open-ended question. Very, very obvious there that in addition to advancement opportunities, security, making a difference, flexibility, benefits, low stress, good culture, work-life balance, a good job, according to parents in Ontario, is just one that pays well and is fulfilling. What you also notice is what's absent from here is a good job is one that matches up with a master's degree or a PhD or some sort of important credential. And ultimately, in the end, parents just want their kids to be happy and to feel fulfilled. But more, I asked, what do you think in terms of a career for your children are very important? And everything's important, okay, to parents, but what's very important, this is where it gets interesting. Again, here we see 87% of parents just want their kids to be happy in their job. Also having a work-life balance, right? This is where it gets really interesting. 81% feel that's very important for a future career, but look at that, have good health benefits. Parents want that for their kids. They want their kids as well to stay active and healthy in their careers as they start to notice more and more people not even leaving their homes anymore and the effects that has on physical health and mental health as a result. And they want, in a post-COVID world, for their kids to have a job that is secure. No doubt, many, or rather all of these characteristics of a good job that parents consider very important are met in skilled trades. More, gig work is not an option. I want my child to have a secure job. The importance of job stability and the ability to work independently. Having an essential job is an important consideration right now. I would like my child to have a job that they will not lose during a pandemic. And yet, when you ask parents of those who believe that their child is university bound, my child is only going to university, describe your child, they will tell you more than half will say, my university bound child is interested in math and science. They have problem solving skills. They have hand-eye coordination. They enjoy being outdoors. And, they have creative and artistic skills. I think for anyone who's familiar, of course, with skilled trades, we all know in this virtual room that, university trades are also skilled trades, that in the trades, we have the opportunity, of course, we see skilled trades people apply math and science, their problem solving skills, their hand-eye coordination, artistic and creative skills, and they get to enjoy outdoor activities. Not everyone, many of you here are aware of a big study I did of Canadian workers and realizing after surveying thousands of Canadian workers and showing them 50 statements about their job, that we have 5 groups of the Canadian workforce here where we could look at them in terms of their satisfaction. I don't have time to go into the actual study itself. But at a high level, we have a group called Square Pegs who are kind of miserable, not happy in their careers, want more meaning from their jobs. Bottom rungers who are entry-level workers in all kinds of fields. But those who are most unhappy and frustrated are those who don't have a mentor in their career to help them advance and grow. Musketeers, those who are in careers where they work more with other people, higher stress jobs, but also they have a bond with their coworkers coworkers and colleagues. But on the left side here, we could argue what happens to be maybe the more happier groups, where we have a group called comfortable and fulfilled. In the comfortable group, we have that work-life balance, many in skilled trades, settling down earlier, buying homes, buying condos, buying vehicles, starting families, going on vacations earlier in life than their counterparts, and very satisfied. And fulfilled, where we also see workers in leadership positions, management positions, and education, where they have work-life integration. They're working all the time, but they like it. But important factor there is they have control. They can decide when they do tasks outside of the office. So having control in one's job is so important to feeling fulfilled. That's why we also see skilled tradespeople in this fulfilled group too. Because skilled tradespeople also have direct control over their work, and they can see the results of their work immediately, which leads to feelings of fulfillment. So that's the headline there. The good news is the data don't lie, that skilled trades and construction workers are among the happiest workers in Canada. And many people who are in this construction know that already to be true when you start talking with them. This isn't maybe so much of a surprise. And of all of the characteristics of a good job that you saw earlier, we think that we would be really, running toward promoting construction careers, and there would be people just climbing over each other to get into these jobs and really interested in it for their kids. But we're not there, right? And there are many reasons we're not there. And I've always believed, and Andrew knows this, that the sub trades have a marketing problem, right? And not even that there's more too, right? I was on the Skilled Trades Ontario website, and I searched for people that I've interviewed, some of the smartest people that I've had the honor of spending time with. I looked for a framer, I looked for a panel installer, siding installer, concrete and drain specialist. I searched for TBM operator, handyman, form setter, carpet installer, taper, hydrovac operator, roofer, rodman. Couldn't find it. They're not listed in the website, right? And how then can they be discovered? Now we can whine about that, which I think we should raise that, but let's also take matters into our own hands and recognize that while we're waiting for these sub trades or voluntary trades to become recognized, that we start the process and promote them on our own, and do it in a way that's thoughtful and is remembering the marketing process. So just by way of introduction here to marketing, it's the process, three things of creating value for a target audience, okay? Creating value, communicating that value in the right way. And once you're lucky enough to get that person as a member of your audience, strengthen value through relationships. And by audience, I mean customers, I mean viewers, and of course, I mean employees. So common examples here, Netflix, by way of illustration, creates value by offering uninterrupted TV and movies to families at a price they're willing to pay. They communicate the value on social media, digital media, and making a presence known on award shows and with celebrities. They strengthen the value with each of us individually by learning about our habits, and through that algorithm recommending things that are catered to us individually. Coca-Cola creates value by associating an objectively unhealthy product, okay, full of sugars. One bottle of Coca-Cola is 17.5 teaspoons of sugar. Go into that sugar bowl 17.5 times. Think about that the next time we consume a beverage like that. But they don't make the association with that. They take the association with happiness, and they communicate that by making sure that they are there when everybody is feeling happy. They sponsor the Olympics. I'm pretty sure Olympians don't drink Coca-Cola, okay? But they're there where all the smiles are on people's faces, and they strengthen value by allowing you to buy a Coke with a label with your name on it, forming that relationship with you. So whether it's streaming sites or furniture companies or soft drink companies or athletic apparel or specialized schools or books or industry associations or jewelry, companies, all of the successful brands know their target audience, create value for them, communicate value in the right way, and of course, strengthen value through relationships, so too does that apply to the promotion of jobs, everyone, to career seekers. So let's talk about how to attract and retain youth to these subtrades that Andrew introduced. It starts with really understanding your target audience. Create a message for that audience that addresses a need. Promote that message strategically. Always be asking questions once you actually have that employee. And of course, maintain mentorships to build loyalty. We'll touch on each one, and then I'm excited to hand it over to our esteemed panel. Really understand your target audience. Who do you want more of in your industry? Think about that. One or a few people that you want more of. What do you know about them? You probably know their demographics. Many, that's all they know. Do you know what they care about? If you don't, ask. Do you know what they aspire to do, to be, what they aspire to have? Very important. Have you identified what challenges they've been facing in life before they got to you and what they're feeling now? And very important, how can you, as a sector or your company or organization, make them feel better? How can you make their lives better by addressing any challenges that they're facing? Really understand your target audience. You better believe that the most successful organizations have answers to all of these questions, and even segmented according to different groups that they are targeting. Create a message when you do understand that audience that really addresses a need for them. Thinking of your subtrade or your sector, what do you provide for your future and current employees in 1 or 2 words? It's called 1-word or 2-word equity. Can you address that? And if your answer, friends, is money, we'll give them money in exchange for their labor. We'll pay them well. You're not the only organization that will give people money in exchange for their hard work. Remember that. It's part of the offer. It's important, but it doesn't distinguish you enough. So what else do you offer people, thinking of your subtrade or sector, that can address this in 1 or 2 words? How will we make our audience feel better? What are they missing emotionally that working in your area will address in a positive way? And who on our team needs to be more positive? Andrew knows this, and Stephen and Steve for sure, when we've been many industry events together, there's a lot, frankly, I call them I say this playfully, yeah butters, the yeah but people in the audience at the recruitment table. Yeah, but the skilled trades is pretty dirty. Yeah, but it's labor intensive work. Yeah, but young people don't want to get up. Okay, these things are always going to be on the table. How can we make it a positive spin all the time when we're talking about skilled trades? It's open happiness. It's not open happiness and you can unclog a car battery with our product, or unclog a drain and clear up a rusty car battery with our product. It's guts, glory, RAM, right? It's not guts, glory, and poor fuel economy, right, for a large vehicle. So keep that in mind. Stay positive. This here is a map that you're not expected to see clearly. It's just to really show you how really in a very specific way, personality types, behaviors, values, and archetypes can be measured. This is one map of several maps of 7,000 attributes that can be measured scientifically through survey research. What I'm trying to get at is there is benefit to knowing the differences between different emotions and behaviors and more, rather than just guessing. Because when you guess, when you assume that this is what a generation wants, you can make some decisions that maybe weren't the right ones, as politely as I can put it. I'm going to show you now an ad. It's an ad that, it was by the Ontario government. It's from a couple of years ago, 30-second ad. And I just want to make some comments about it. And maybe you have some thoughts. You'll have some thoughts as you're watching it as well. I'm not sure if we'll have volume though. If not, I'm going to have to skip over it. I'll look to our organizers to let me know. I wasn't able to click the share sound. So let's see.
Unfortunately not.
All right. Well, let's just look at it. All right, everyone. So what you saw there in 30 seconds without audio, but I'll give you the highlights, is a nicely produced advertisement that is dark, when the future of trades should be bright, when no one is smiling, when the assumption is to maybe show people you're looking tough and like they've achieved something with a look on their face that's, not smiling. That is interpreted arguably as, in a short amount of time, when you don't have a lot of time to look at an advertisement, standoffish, maybe even bullyish, which nobody wants to associate with a career. But most importantly, unfortunately, the audio didn't come through. The word proud was forced on us 5 times in 30 seconds. Be proud of what you do, proud of what you can achieve, proud of what you can earn. I can tell you from research among young people, this generation is already proud. Okay, they're pretty darn proud of themselves as it is. And in fact, proud is not an emotion that they're seeking. And proud is an emotion that addresses actually shame. And the Army in the United States and Canada haven't even met half of their recruitment targets with the message around pride in one's work. You have to be honest that there are other things that young people today might need to see and feel more than this notion of feeling proud. The data don't lie, everyone. So again, thinking of that one word equity, how we can make our audiences feel better. Our young people today have no more than before, than ever, been feeling tired. And the opposite of tired is not energized. It's not awake. The opposite of tired, what people are really craving, is actually to feel alive. How in the subtrades can we create that message that people can feel alive every day? Related to that, sitting. Sitting is the new smoking, right? It's connected. Very obviously, all scientific research will point to this, to increased risks of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and more. Prolonged sitting, and it's only going to get worse. How can it not in a digital age? In the skilled trades, you get movement and activity. You get to be out of the house. And fine, come back home and sit in front of the screen. But in the most important part of the day, you get to be out there in the world. You get to the opposite of being digital, right? The antidote to this digital world is having some sort of tactile nature built into our days, being touched with the real world. As we move into years from now, I'm sure virtual reality is going to be a new reality, right? For many of our younger workers. The opportunity to get to be outside in the real world in the face of digital technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, having that break, you get to, and unfortunately, the opposite, or rather the irony of being so connected through digital technology, young people are not feeling more connected. They actually feel more separated, and reports of loneliness are up. The subtrades allow people to feel like there's a sense of belonging. They have teamwork. You can be among each other. Anxiety levels are up and will continue to go up. Okay, 1 in 6, maybe soon it'll be 1 in 5 reporting feelings of anxiety. The opposite of anxious anxiety is not feeling calm. Okay, the opposite of anxiety is feeling mentored and guided, having someone give you certainty. so that you see that future. And the skilled trades, sub-trades as well has this sense of mentorship and teamwork built into it. There's always room for improvement, but that's a real, the fact that there's an opportunity there is really, really good. Once you then maybe can find out how you can promote that message, how you're addressing a need, promote the message strategically. There's a saying in marketing, spray and pray. Don't do that. Okay? You spray your message out and you just hope it'll fall on the right people. Okay. Promote your message strategically by thinking about that target audience. Where do they live? Where does your target audience live? Where are the people that you want more of? Where did they live when they applied for your job? Where can you put a billboard? Where can you put a poster? I lived among in a neighborhood with an apartment building full of young, diverse people. Elevators would never work. So we'd be sitting there in the lobby with nothing to look at. Never once saw a poster for a union. Never once saw a poster for a construction company. Opportunity there. Where do they spend their spare time? Basketball courts, community centers, other places. Where do they spend their time online? What websites do they frequent? Sometimes there's a tendency for some of us to think that women spend more time on social media. They do not. Men are more, statistics show, are 54 to 56% of men are viewers of YouTube. 54 to 56% of men are viewers of Instagram. Here's Celeste. She's an apprentice. She's got 50,000 followers, watching her journey, showing her life on the job and off the job. I asked Celeste, have you ever been sponsored by a union? Have you ever been sponsored by a construction company? Ever been approached? Never. People are following her every single day and watching her. There's an opportunity there to reach an audience that has a similar interest as her. Where do our current employees, where did they find us? Okay, and how can we therefore learn from where they found us and go back to that well? And before coming to us, what were they doing? I think I learned from Stephen Crombie, there's maybe an initiative to attract more people seeking second careers from retail giants that have been closed down, going after another sector, finding people who have been displaced from work, right? That's a strategic goal. Going toward people who have a potential opportunity to go into another field, okay? And someone else will get there if we don't go there. So where will they go? Where were they doing before they came to us? If you really want an edge, let's all acknowledge that the data don't lie and that men and women are different. If you are able to segment your marketing, notice some important differences emotionally and values between men and women who we can say have differences, the way they respond to surveys. And it's very plain to see here. You have on your screen a table. It says a percentage plus on the right. So what you need to look at or think about when you look at these tables now is that while both men and women feel these things, in certain times, one gender is more likely to feel it than others. So in this case, women are 18% more likely to feel positive emotions like caring, grateful, blessed, love, and empathy, good news. What's also true is that women are also today more likely to report some negative emotions more than men. Men feel these things too, but women 20% more likely to feel overwhelmed, stressed, fatigued, and worried. This is easy to explain. You can explain this by the pressures that women are put under in caregiving roles, caregiving for children, parents, other family members, and more. But where it's really interesting is the bottom three there, more likely to say they feel stuck, unconfident, insecure. There's an opportunity there in terms of recruitment. Women, though, when asked how people would describe them, much more than men to say, and I'm just going to read the highlighted rows, organized, helpful. People describe me as loyal, hardworking, trustworthy, reliable. From what I've learned over the past 5 years, very important qualities in tradespeople, in construction tradespeople, looking for these qualities. Another great reason to continue going after women as a target audience in recruitment. Compared to women, men by far 20% more likely to say that people would describe them as a sports fan. That's significant. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Diplomatic, intellectual, professional, entrepreneurial, and a leader. But where it gets really interesting is this busy table here, and I'm going to make it less busy for you by just highlighting some rows. The values that women hold compared to men. So it may, maybe it doesn't surprise you, but women compared to men are more likely to say that they value having a financially secure job, having a stable, good paying job. That's really interesting. But what's more interesting, I would say, is when you look at these next set of highlighted rows, more likely, okay, much more, as you can see by the percentages, to say that they value wanting to learn and accept yourself, learn to love and accept yourself, learning to stand up for yourself, be strong and confident, being independent and self-reliant, and valuing developing your abilities, skills, and talents. What does that translate to? Building self-confidence, more being understood and appreciated for who you are, not allowing yourself to be disrespected, having integrity and being true to your word, and getting back your self-respect and self-worth, earning respect. So money is important. Keep the message on the table, but don't forget that also important when attracting women to a particular sector is this importance put on having respect, earning respect, and building one's self-confidence. Men are more likely to say that they value winning, proving themselves. And you saw earlier, they're 20% more likely to say that they think of themselves as sports fans. What this tells me as a researcher, everyone, is that not everyone is meant to be a leader. And we emphasize leadership. Not everybody wants to be a leader, but everyone wants to be part of a winning team. And especially men, they like this idea of being cheered on, of being felt like they're winning at life. How can, in the sub-trades, we make that connection for men and not leadership, winning at life, being able to get a job quickly without a lot of expense, okay? Being able to take care of their families, being able to see the results of their work immediately and getting that sense of fulfillment compared to other people who are in front of the same desk, same screen every single day. Think about that. In addition, of course, to the six figures that we're all very happy and rightfully so to promote. But distinguish. As I start to wrap up here, when you are so lucky enough to have someone on your team, ABAQ, you've heard of always be closing, ABC, ABAQ, always be asking questions. There is no large company, successful organization that gets customers and then takes them for granted. They will leave if they do that in the face of competition. Ask questions. What prevented your employees from applying in the first place? Do you know the answer to that question? Get the answer and make the correction. What or who did they consult before deciding? If it was an online source, a video maybe that they watched, how can you get that and add that to your recruitment roster? How will you know if you don't ask? Do they miss anything about their previous jobs? And if so, are you in a position to address that gap? Are they better off now than they were a year ago? If you don't know, ask. And if the answer is no, how can you make a difference in making their lives better, right? Because if you don't, someone else with a better message could sway them to leave. What are our industry competitors doing better than us? As leaders, we probably have a guess. We probably believe we know, but do you know at the ground level what employees are saying about what other companies, other sectors are doing? You don't know until you ask. And I'll repeat that again. There is no successful, call it a company, organization, brand that doesn't have a regular, ongoing conversation with their target audience. Lastly, mentorship is so important today. A lack of a clear career path is a common example for leaving most jobs. How then can we incentivize mentorship to create loyalty and to cultivate community and loyalty? So my last piece of advice here related to retention is, do we have a culture of appreciation? Have you asked yourselves that as an association, as a company? How are we promoting team building? Are we keeping on top of training needs? What growth opportunities are we providing? Especially important when thinking about the younger worker who does, whether you like it or not, want to have signs of progression that they can share with their family and friends. And everyone, how can we, the hardest part here, create and maintain a mentorship program? I had the honor of addressing Concrete Ontario's convention not too long ago, and out in the lobby was this conversation, a very blunt conversation among people that belong to unions, and saying this is the most challenging part, right? And it takes some time, but they're willing to have, they want to have that conversation. They believe in the importance of mentorship. Someone said maybe we can offer trips. Maybe we could, the more people that you mentor, how can we reward and promote not only on seniority, but also on the number of people that someone is willing to take on, to train, to help, to assist, to mentor. Everyone, in summary there, how to attract and retain youth to the sub-trades, create value for that target audience, really understand them, okay? Once you do that, communicate that value in a way that addresses a need and promote that message strategically. Don't spray and pray, be very targeted, don't blow your budget. And once you're lucky enough to have that person in your organization, strengthen that value, always be asking questions and find a way to maintain mentorships to keep that loyalty going. It's been an honor. Thank you very much. I don't think we'll be doing questions for me, but I'm very happy now to hand it back to Andrew, who I think will set up the panel. Thanks, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you very much, John, for that. Your input is extremely beneficial, especially on how to, attract people to the skilled trades. It hasn't been very easy. And as you said, with the specialized skill sets, how do we attract them to a job that they don't even know exists in the first place, right? So that's very helpful. And now we're going to have a panel discussion. It's going to be with Stephen Crombie, Amina Dib, Steve Tamas, and Nicole Stoikas. And Andrew Parrish will be moderating it. So I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Thanks, Ahid. So we're just getting everybody up here for the we're just getting everybody into the panel here. So if we can get Nicole, I'll let Amina or somebody do that. And so what we'll do is we'll start with a round of introductions. What we like to do is we'll give everybody about a minute to introduce themselves. If someone can just add Nicole to the panel, that'd be great too. But I've got Steve Crombie up first on my screen. So if you want to take a minute and introduce yourself, Steve.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, my name is Stephen Crombie. I'm the chair of the Ontario Skilled Trades Alliance. We represent 37 employer coalitions who collectively represent over 100,000 skilled trades workers across the province. And I also represent the Ontario Sewer Water Main Construction Associations in the capacity of Manager of Government Relations and Public Affairs.
Great. And we've got Nicole up now, so let's go to her next for an introduction.
Okay, hi, my name is Nicole Stoikas, and I am from the OCCA, which is Ontario Construction Careers Alliance. And what I do is I connect with students, teachers, and educators, parents, and talk about careers in construction and really focus on why it's a really great equal pathway choice, which I will get into a little bit more when it's my turn coming up. And I also deal with, all social media panels, really trying to promote the message on Instagram and TikTok, especially TikTok, trying to reach the younger target audience.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicole. And we're going to go to our second, I guess one is Stephen, one is Steve. So we'll go to Steve now. Oh, but you are muted. So you're going to have to start again, Steve.
Sorry about that. We're good now. My name is Steve Tamas, and I'm president of the Ontario Sewer Water Main Association, and I'm a project manager with Rankin Construction. We are dealing with a always recruiting and looking for new candidates in just about every sector of our company and through the association in all the sectors.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. And Amina, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi there. My name is Amina. I'm the manager of government and stakeholder relations at RESCON, and a lot of the work I do is focused on recruitment and retention, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. So how do we get more women and underrepresented groups into the skilled trades?
Perfect. And so this panel is going to be fairly informal. I'll have a couple of questions that we'll use to guide the conversation, but please jump in as you see fit. And so one of the big things around skilled trades has been a tremendous amount of government support. I think we've seen it from, pretty much every ministry, but certainly we always have to have a shout out for Minister McNaughton. I don't know if we can call him the Minister of Construction yet, but certainly skilled trades is high on his priority. So I'm going to look to you, Steve, as the chair of OSTA. And specifically, what are some easy steps or low-hanging fruit that the government can take to address the labor shortage in the residential and infrastructure sectors?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So the Ontario Skilled Trades Alliance believes the greatest opportunity for government to make an immediate difference on residential and infrastructure related trades is to create better data sets around labor market information. Specifically, we believe in developing local trade-specific labor market information. And we think that that should be a core function of the new Crown agency, Skilled Trades Ontario. We know that in April of 2022, a mandate letter was issued to STO, which included but was not limited to developing a research plan in relation to labor market information and the needs of skilled trades, including information on how STO would collaborate with stakeholders. As an industry, we have not seen a research plan yet, but we are eager to work with this Crown agency on this critical function. Look, it's no secret that there is a labor shortage in the skilled trades. Frankly, it's no secret that there's a labor shortage in nearly every sector of the economy. In Canada, the ratio of people 65 and older to people 15 to 64, known as the dependency ratio, is projected to increase by more than 20% over the next 2 decades. The assumption is that people 65 and older are no longer working and must be financially supported by younger people who are working. So what does this mean?
And maybe we'll go to Amina. Just, do you agree? Like, what's the low-hanging fruit in residential? Is it the same?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a labor shortage. However, I think people still don't know what the real jobs that actually exist, and you can't promote something that doesn't exist. People don't get into jobs that they don't know exist. And so I think specifically for residential, there's a lot of more work that needs to be done to encourage employers to hire, train, and retain. But also on our part, as we work with government, to add more or kind of limit the confusion that is associated with how to get a job in the residential construction industry. Like most other jobs, you have a job description and there's an interview process and you have to have a resume. So how do we, like, that obviously works for most of the other sectors across the board in Ontario, in Canada, pretty much around the world. So how do we create an industry where maybe we're taking some of those components to improve the pathway into construction? I think we've done a great job of promoting the idea of the construction industry without actually getting down into the minutia of how you actually get into it. And certainly there's still a drop off with people. Young people are interested, but there's not enough, whether it's employers, there's a disconnect there still that exists.
Yeah. And I love this, I guess, micro theme that's emerging around if we had more labor market information, or if I dare say better, labor market information. I mean, I'll open it up to Steve or Nicole on the labor market information piece. Like, Steve, what would you want, Stats Can or the government to know, or what information do you want? And then maybe I'll go to Nicole after.
Well, just exposing the opportunities there are in our industry is super important. I think I don't think there's been enough exposure to the opportunities that are there, both right from the initial labor position all the way up to engineering positions in all assets of construction. There's just there's lots of opportunity, and it just needs to be put out there and exposed to everybody that's looking for work and looking for a career path, probably early on when they're seeking a career or choosing a career path.
It's as easy as just them understanding what careers are there and then getting that out there. And so that kind of pulls me to Nicole from a labor market information point. I mean, one of the best things about the OCCA and your work is you promote real careers that exist. Is there anything from an LMI point of view that you want to touch on?
So I deal with a lot of high schools, a lot of grade 11 and 12s as well as grade 9 and 10s. But for the grade 11 and 12s, I find that they're already very overwhelmed with choosing something, right? Because at such a young age, they're 15, 16 years old, and they're having to choose these careers to do for the rest of their lives. So when they're in these construction classroom settings, that's great. But as a hands-on learner, the last thing you want is to sit there for 3 hours trying to figure out what job can I do, what would I like, and where do I go, right? That's the last thing they want. They want somewhere where they can find a website. They go, here are the jobs. This is what you can do. You can apply here. If your company specifically doesn't hire, but you know a company who does, put it at the bottom, say, go to this website to apply. They're not going to sit there for all these hours to do that. So even if you have the interest, there's a huge gap there where they're not going to go through that because they're not those type of learners, right? First university, you're going to sit there and breathe. So I think that's definitely something that companies really need to focus on. Again, that goes back to what John was saying for the marketing, but not just marketing, hearing about it. It's where do I go? Right? Just make it so easy, as simple as possible, because again, they're hands-on learners. They're not going to sit there for more than 30 minutes, right? Even for YouTube video, that's why I love Job Talks videos and I love to promote them to students because they're 2 to 3 minutes long, right? They're not going to sit there for 20 minutes to get one message. So something that's very straightforward, because again, that's the type of learners we're focusing towards.
No, I think that's great, and pulling in what was a very good presentation by John in the marketing aspect. It leads it to kind of another theme, which is barriers, right? So there are a lot of young people that seem to be interested in construction, but there are a lot of barriers that exist. I guess I'll look at Amina and ask, what are the barriers that job seekers face when they're trying to enter, careers in the residential sector?
Yeah, so again, back to sort of what Nicole and John have said, not knowing where to go is a huge problem. So again, maybe it's not our solution for construction, but when I was in high school, I knew exactly what I needed to do to be a clerk at a grocery store. I don't know if young people can say the same about getting a job in the skilled trades. A, because there are multiple routes, but B, because we're not telling young people or job seekers what to do or how to get into the industry. And I think the traditional way that we've recruited, which has been successful in the past, but certainly isn't going to last if we want to build 1.5 million homes, is the friends and family. So like, if anything, families are getting smaller. So you're going to run out of uncles and cousins and siblings. So that's not sustainable. And I think just, again, going back to barriers, if it's hard for anyone to get into the industry, it's even harder if you're like adding an additional component of being a woman or being someone from a a marginalized community. So that's an additional barrier. However, I think like employers and those who train the government can work together to bridge this gap and break down some of these barriers, certainly.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. There seems to be barriers for everyone, but there's additional barriers for women, and there's additional barriers from people from under-resourced groups or diverse groups. I know Steve Crombie, OSTA has done a lot of work, and I think they even coined the term skills gap. And so that would imply that there's barriers that people want to get into the trades but are having trouble. And so maybe I'll turn it over to you for some comments.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I mean, I think just to echo Amina's point, particularly in the residential and infrastructure trades, the routes to entry have historically been informal and community-based. It's sort of a who do you know in the industry to get me in? That has historically worked. We are now at a point where we are facing extreme labor crunch and high infrastructure demands. We're going to need to create more formalized and seamless channels for young folks to get into these trades. The old ways certainly are proving themselves not to work, but we should recognize important steps taken by the government as recently as ensuring that washrooms on construction sites not only are clean but are equally accessible to both men and women and other folks on the job site. Creating an environment that makes everyone feel equal on a job site. From an association perspective and from an OSTA perspective, we really do believe that construction is for everyone. Infrastructure and the broader public will benefit from that sentiment.
And then maybe before we move to the role of employers, I'm going to circle back to Nicole. And you obviously have a wealth of knowledge and interact with a lot of young people. Are there specific barriers that you commonly hear when you're interacting with the high schools?
Are you talking about more getting a job wise or just around? So again, it goes with that confusion and not knowing where to go. And that can get really frustrating, right? Because at the young age, they're not just looking at construction courses, that they're just thinking about it, right? So when they're looking at that, but then they're looking at maybe college programs, if they can't figure out the construction way, they're just going to say, okay, whatever, let me just apply to this college program. Going back to the family and friends, of course, that's always worked, but that's completely separating the group that don't have any connections. They don't have any family or friends in the industry. So you're losing these hundreds of students who are lost, confused, and interested. They don't know where to go. So they're maybe settling on these college programs they don't want to be in. So that can be definitely a huge disconnect as well.
That would be a huge barrier. So we haven't heard from Steve, I guess Steve from Sewer and Water Main. So I'm going to ask a question there. So employers play a special role in the skilled trades. You guys have a business, you run your business, you guys are the ones that do the hiring. And so I guess the obvious question is, recognizing that employers are the ones that do the hiring, what are the main obstacles that you're facing when it comes to hiring in the skilled trades?
Well, attracting the right candidates is one of the most important things. Often employers choose the best person they can find at the time, but not necessarily the ones who best fit the job. And it's not always about the candidates who apply. The best way to hire the right person is often from a smaller pipeline of more qualified talents. Everything is hiring fast, like skilled employees, people. There's a shortage of them. So if you don't act on them fast, somebody snapping them up right away. This time of year in our business, when everybody is getting fired up for summer work, if somebody comes in and applies, you almost have to hire them on the spot or they'll be gone somewhere else.
And I think that gets back to a lot what John was saying, where the marketplace is very different than it was 10 or 20 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, just off the top, it sounds like everybody knows they're gonna get a competitive offer, so it's got to be more than just money, I guess is also what you're saying.
Yeah, and a part of that too from an employer is building a brand where you have a strong brand and it's recognizable with a good reputation, because like John talked about earlier, people like winners, right? Guys like to be on a winning team. They want to be with a successful company and work on successful projects. So that's important too.
And maybe I'll shift gears and go to Amina, because obviously you represent a lot of employers as well. And just what are the barriers that the builders and the residential subtrades have faced?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't like to call it a skills gap, because I think people do have the skills, especially like if employers are investing in training. I think it's more of a communications or expectations gap. So employers expect a lot, and as do job seekers, but none of these two parties are communicating their expectations. And so when they're hired, when a job seeker is hired, like it's not lasting because no one communicate them. Either the employer didn't communicate to them, this is exactly what I expect. And likewise on the job seeker side. So there's again a breakdown of communication. And I think, especially with this new generation, like you do really need to spell it out from an employer perspective. Like, this is exactly what I am looking for in a candidate, and this is what I expect from you. Like first day, first week, a month into it, and like a year into, because again, like job seekers will look elsewhere. Like this is a job seekers market. So I think employers need to do everything that they can to make sure that they're getting the right talent, and that talent is wanting to stay with them.
And then we'll move to Steve.
Yeah, I think so much of it is an influx of new labor into sectors like the highly specialized skill sets in residential and infrastructure. Folks are being tossed onto job sites. And so folks that, historically were supported, had opportunity to train more, are now being asked to take on more responsibility quicker. And so I think really a path forward is creating more visibility around these opportunities, and that will ultimately lead to an increase in labor market participation in the highly specialized skill sets. I mean, we know from our research that we're actually experiencing labor market saturation in a few trades, in a few jurisdictions, whereas in some of the highly specialized skill sets, there's major labor market scarcity. So what that tells us is that we're sort of just filtering folks into the wrong trades. And I think if we can get a bit more equilibrium and as we're placing folks and encouraging folks into different careers, that'll help solve some of these challenges that our employers are facing as well.
Yeah, and then going back to John's presentation, I'm going to look at you, Nicole, here. Looking at promotion and looking at recruitment, what are the misunderstandings related to careers in construction, and how can we promote the real jobs and careers that exist?
So I'm going to focus more on the younger age group, again, the grade 11s and 12s, because I talk directly to them and directly to the parents. So first, with the schooling, the amount of times when I do presentations and the school has the program OYAP, Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, or SHISM. During my presentation, I ask, because I go over the program, I say, raise of hands, and these are even construction classes, who knows of this program? And a lot of the time, none of the students are aware of this program. These are grade 11s and 12s, and that's who the program is for, right? So that bounces back to the teachers, but not only that, the guidance counselors, right? Because when they're talking to the guidance counselors, they're from university. They have that university background. So when they go and talk to the guidance counselor, there is that disconnect because the guidance counselor doesn't have the knowledge that they need, as well as coming from the parents. Right. So a lot of the time, if the parent doesn't think construction is a great pathway choice because of the stigmas that go around saying it's so much, physical work, but a lot of people talk about the physical labor, but nobody talks about how much mental stimulation and how much learning and adapting goes on a job site. And that's what I really like to focus on for the students, because I'm not sure why that whole section gets overlooked when all you're doing is constantly thinking and learning and adapting using math skills, science skills, whatever you need, because you're the artist to that specific trade. So if you, at that young age, you hear from parents, no, you have to go to university, you have to go to university, they're pressured and stressed going into this learning style that maybe it's not best suited for them. So they're missing out on the other opportunities for the construction side. So there are multiple gaps in different aspects, because at that young age, you're already stressed, you're already overwhelmed on choosing a career at a young age. So when you hear a parent maybe say, hey, you need to go to university for this, but you don't learn in the university way, you try it and you end up dropping out, that's very discouraging for you and that puts you down. But the only reason for that is you're not a university learner, and that's okay, right? They're completely equal. There's this huge stigma that even when I was in high school, it's like university is up here and then it's college and then it's construction, when honestly that does not make any sense. They're all completely equal in here. It just depends on your learning style. Depending on your learning style, understanding it and reflecting on it will depend on how you succeed and thrive later on, right? If you are a hands-on learning style, you're not going to succeed in university. If you're a university learner, love reading, love the office atmosphere, you're not going to succeed in a hands-on learning style. So really focusing on understanding your learning style, really trying to connect with parents about it, and also the knowledge from the teachers and the guidance counselors, right? There's gaps kind of everywhere in the system where it doesn't help them or encourage them to get into these choices, or even if they are encouraged, going back to the school sector, they don't really have the knowledge or the support unless there are some schools I go to, there are specific co-op teachers that really interact with all the students, which is really great. But the reality is not a lot of schools, or not every school does that, when every school should be accounting for that.
And I like that emphasis on focusing on the learning style to combat, the misinformation that results in the stigmas. I guess I'll open it up to else on that point. Essentially, like what other stigmas are out there, or why are they there, or what are some other best practices that people are aware of when it comes to promotion and recruitment? I'll open it up for anyone who wants to join in.
Yeah, Andrew, I'll take a shot here. I mean, I think in addition to learning style, it's personality, it's expectation, it's lifestyle. These are all contributing factors that can help one have a happy and long career working in construction. I mean, we know from John's research, folks that are outside working in teams, building physical infrastructure, part of a project, these are all personality traits that can determine someone's likelihood to want to participate in these careers. So I think in addition to learning styles, it's identifying personality traits that coincide with infrastructure and housing residential work would be beneficial to the industry as well.
Yeah, Mina or Steve, you want to jump in, or?
Yeah, I
I'll
think
let
just
Steve
the
go.
the promotion of the industry as a whole, and like John talked about, branding and making it making it more attractive, I think will open a lot of eyes, and I think especially young people, it'll be and a little easier to pick a career path and a learning style, because I think that's important too. I don't think promoting or pushing certain students into the college or university level, if that's not really their learning style, is good, because I'm not so sure once they drop out, they're going to stay in the industry as a whole. They might just go somewhere else. Just because they don't succeed at the college level doesn't mean they're going to pick up a trade. They may just leave altogether. So getting them on the right path early, I think, is important.
Yeah, and we've seen, I think the average age of an apprentice is still in the late 20s. I think it's come down a little bit, but it means that people have been unsuccessful somewhere else before they've come to the trades. But on this point, I'm going to give Amina the last thought.
Yeah, I think that it's a team effort. Like any job in the skilled trades or on site, it's a team effort. I think getting more young people and job seekers into construction is also a team effort. So employers are told us multiple times for years that they want more workers, and so they need to come to the table. The government is also encouraging that as well, so they need to be at the table, and certainly job seekers as well. and not just saying that, oh, we want people to work in the construction industry or the skilled trades. What does that actually mean? Like, is there a list of job titles that employers can share with job seekers? Like, what are the actual jobs? What are the job titles? Because when I go to apply for a job, I know exactly what the job title is and what the expectations are and my job duties will be. I think for this new generation of potential workers, like, that is what they need. It's not just the idea of working in construction and hammering a nail and getting paid six figures. They need to know exactly what they're doing, and just reinforcing the specialized skill sets.
It gets back to clarity. And we had another question in the chat. And so I sit as on the board of directors of the LIUNA Jointly Labor Management, the training center. And so Lisa Price, who does incredible work there, has pointed out that the training center is giving a series of tours to guidance counselors and guidance departments. And I can't compliment them enough on this. I think getting guidance counselors and guidance departments into construction training centers is a great initiative, and keep up the great work, Lisa. So it is time to start wrapping up the panel, though. And so what I'm going to do is, there's been a lot of great themes and a lot of great, I guess, phrases and thoughts covered. I'm going to go around one more time. If everybody can kind of pick the one message they want to leave all the audience with today. I'm going to try and hold you to a minute, so 1 point. And I guess we'll probably do the same order that everyone was introduced. So we'll start with Stephen Crombie first.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So the message would be this: we no longer have the luxury to simply throw labor at the problem. Labor is scarce, and consensus data suggests that labor is going to be scarce for decades to come. Simply communicating to students to join the skilled trades is not useful information. We know historically that has led to a greater number of young people entering the high visibility trades, like plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. We have even created market saturation in some jurisdictions. Ontario no longer has the luxury to oversaturate certain trades. And again, data suggests that this will create labor scarcity in other trades.
Right, Nicole's up next.
So the three things are knowledge, encouragement, and clarity. The students going into the trades, they need clarity and knowledge on how to get there, where to go, nice and easy. And then the encouragement from the school sector, the guidance counselors, the teacher, the family, really connecting with everybody to understand that this is an equal pathway choice, and to really take away that reflecting on your learning style and lifestyle is going to be a huge knowledge and advancement for you to know before choosing your secondary option, because that can definitely lay out on who you are as a person and which option would be best suited for you to thrive in that specific work setting.
That's fantastic. We'll go to Steve.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to add. I think it's been a great discussion, and all the points have been fantastic. Just looking for new ways to attract people to the industry, and as an employer, looking for better ways to recruit, find the right people, and maintain them once we get them here.
And we'll wrap it up with Amina.
Yeah, so I'd say that the skills gap is just a communications and expectations gap between all of the key players in the recruitment and retention process. So employers, government, job seekers / young people, and those who train. So it's really just a communications and expectations gap. And then the last thing I would say is that just because we did it for all these years in the past and it worked, doesn't mean it's going to work for the present and future. So I don't think that's an excuse anymore for anyone. So hopefully we're not using it at the next webinar.
Yeah, and I think those are great comments, and holding everybody to account is something that we always need to do. So with that, big thank you to everybody on the panel today. One, for today, but two, I think everybody here really does in their day-to-day address the labor supply issues. And so thank you for all the work you do in your day-to-day. I think now we're moving on to Amina, who's going to give us some closing remarks. So we'll start to remove some pins and pass it over to Amina.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for attending today. We've had many webinars on skilled trades, and I know most of us have heard from John Gallagher, but if you haven't, he has many resources, jobtalks.ca and I believe jobtalksconstruction.ca. So there's a lot of videos there that you can tune into and share within your networks. The OCCA as well. They have a variety of resources about the different careers in construction, salary expectations, and as well some videos. And then thanks again to the OSTA and the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Association. Like Steve said, there's a lot of jobs, like the spring, summer, and fall is a huge season for their industry. So I'm sure they'd be more than happy to keep chatting about careers in construction, specifically in sewer and water main. So thanks everyone for being here today, and we'll make sure that the recording is sent to anyone who RSVP'd. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.